The doors slammed. 3 identical children ran down the hallway. "Mom, don't marry him!" An audio on the phone exposed a 6-year plan. The music stopped. The billionaire's smile broke. That night, the vows would not be said. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. "Do you really think Mom will be happier after today?" Zoe asked, her small fingers fidgeting with the edge of her frilly dress as she sat on the hotel bed beside her identical brothers. Zach shrugged, his amber eyes, exact copies of their mothers, focused on the tablet in his hands. "Richard gives her lots of presents, and we get to live in a big house. I don't like how he looks at us when Mom isn't watching," Zane whispered, always the most sensitive of the 6-year-old triplets. His smile disappears. The morning sunlight streamed through the grand windows of the Grand Palmer House Hotel in downtown Chicago, illuminating the luxurious room where the triplets waited in their matching outfits. Outside their door, dozens of workers rushed to perfect the most expensive wedding the historic venue had hosted this year. In another suite across the hall, 27-year-old Jasmine Taylor stood in front of a full-length mirror, barely recognizing herself in the designer wedding gown that cost more than 6 months' rent on her old apartment. "I can't believe this is happening," Jasmine said, touching the delicate fabric. 8 months ago, I was working overtime coding in our tiny apartment, and now I'm marrying a billionaire." Tasha Williams, her best friend since college and maid of honor, adjusted Jasmine's veil. "It's like a fairy tale. Though I'm still trying to figure out how you went from presenting your security software at that tech conference to walking down the aisle so quickly." Jasmine smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "When Richard sets his mind on something, he moves fast. He says, 'When you know, you know.' And the triplets? They're okay with everything?" "They're adjusting," Jasmine said, her voice softening. "It's been just the 4 of us for so long. But Richard will give them opportunities I never could on my own." A knock at the door interrupted them. Tasha opened it to find an elegant older woman with silver-streaked dark hair. "Professor Simmons!" Jasmine exclaimed, embracing her former college mentor. "You made it!" "I wouldn't miss it," Eleanor Simmons said, studying Jasmine's face carefully. "Though I must admit, when you told me you were getting married, I was surprised. The Jasmine I knew was determined to build her security software company before thinking about marriage." Jasmine's smile faltered slightly. "Life doesn't always go as planned. Between raising the triplets and trying to launch my business, I was drowning. Richard believes in my work. He wants to help me succeed." Eleanor nodded, though her eyes remained concerned. "I'm sure he does." In a temporary office downstairs, Richard Caldwell straightened his bow tie, examining his reflection. At 45, he maintained the fit physique of a much younger man, his salt and pepper hair adding to his distinguished appearance. The door opened, and Marcus Whitman, his business partner and best man, entered. "Everything set with the children?" Richard asked without turning around. Marcus nodded. "They're in the playroom with the other kids and will be brought up for the ceremony. The security team knows to keep them contained until then." "Good. The last thing I need is those 3 wandering around causing trouble." Marcus hesitated. "They seem like good kids, Richard. Bright, too. The boy, Zach is it, was asking some surprisingly technical questions about our company." Richard turned, his charming smile appearing instantly, though it didn't reach his cold blue eyes. "Children are impressionable, Marcus. Soon enough, they'll understand their place in the new family structure. Jasmine is the prize here. Her security algorithm is exactly what we need to save the company." "And she has no idea about our financial situation?" "Of course not," Richard scoffed. "She sees what I want her to see, the successful businessman, the caring father figure, the devoted fiancé. Women like Jasmine are so focused on security for their children that they miss the obvious questions." In the hotel's lavish children's playroom, the triplets had grown bored with the supervised activities. While the other children of wealthy guests played with expensive toys, Zoe, always the leader despite being the youngest by 4 minutes, gathered her brothers in a corner. "Let's explore," she whispered. "We can play spies." Zach's eyes lit up. The real kind or pretend? Both, Zoe decided. Mom says the hotel has secret tunnels from the olden days. They waited until the supervisor turned to help a crying toddler, then slipped out the door. The hotel corridors were bustling with wedding staff carrying flowers, food, and decorations. "Where should we go first?" Zane asked nervously, already wondering if this was a good idea. Zach pointed down a quieter hallway. "That way. Less people to catch us." The triplets moved through the Grand Hotel, their small bodies easily hidden behind large decorative plants and furniture. They turned a corner and found themselves in a more private area where meeting rooms lined the corridor. "Look," Zoe whispered, pointing to a door slightly ajar with Richard's name on a temporary plaque. Voices drifted from inside. Richard's distinctive tone was unmistakable, though they had never heard it sound so cold. "Everything is proceeding as planned," he was saying. "Once we're married, Illinois law gives me partial rights to her intellectual property. We'll transfer the patent ownership gradually, then I'll file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. She'll never see it coming." Another man's voice, Marcus, they realized, asked, "And the kids?" "Unfortunate baggage," Richard replied dismissively, "but necessary to maintain the facade until we secure the patents." The triplets froze, eyes wide with shock. Zach, always quick with technology, grabbed Zoe's tablet from her backpack and held it toward the door, pressing record. "We need to save this," he whispered. "For Mom." "What does irreconcilable differences mean?" Zane asked, his voice trembling. "It means divorce," Zoe explained, her young face hardening with understanding beyond her years. "He's going to marry Mom, steal her computer program, and then leave us." Inside the office, Richard continued, "The wedding itself is a worthwhile investment. Chicago's business elite will be there, connections we desperately need with the company's current cash flow issues. And Jasmine looks the part perfectly, the brilliant young mother who created revolutionary software while raising triplets alone. The media loves that narrative." "And if she suspects anything?" Marcus asked. Richard laughed. "She's too grateful that someone of my stature would even look at a struggling single mother. Her insecurities make her easy to manage. By the time she realizes what's happening, the patents will be under our control." The triplets backed away from the door, huddling together around a corner. "We have to tell Mom," Zane whispered, tears forming in his eyes. "She won't believe us," Zach said. "She never does when we say bad things about Richard. She says we're just adjusting." Zoe stood up straighter, her small face determined. "Then we'll make her believe us. We have proof now." They heard footsteps approaching from inside the office. The triplets scurried down the hallway and ducked behind a large potted palm. Richard and Marcus emerged, both dressed in expensive tuxedos. "4 hours until I'm married to the most valuable security algorithm in tech," Richard said with a smirk. "Make sure the triplets are ready and exactly where they need to be during the ceremony. I don't want any complications." As the men walked away, the triplets looked at each other with identical expressions of determination. "We need to find Mom," Zoe said. "But how?" Zach asked. "Richard's security guys are everywhere." Zane, usually the quietest of the three, squared his small shoulders. "We'll find a way. We have to. Mom needs us now." As they crept back into the bustling hotel corridor, the weight of their discovery pressed heavily even on their young shoulders. Their mother was about to marry a man who saw her only as a business acquisition and them as unfortunate baggage. The clock was ticking. In 4 hours, their family's future would change forever, unless 3 6-year-olds could somehow stop a wedding. "We need a plan," Zoe whispered, pulling her brothers into an alcove as a hotel staff member walked past with a large flower arrangement. "Mom is going to marry a bad man in just a few hours." The triplets huddled together in the ornate hallway of the Grand Palmer house, their matching outfits already slightly wrinkled from their secret expedition. "I saved the recording," Zach confirmed, checking the tablet. "You can hear everything Richard said about stealing Mom's computer program." Zane's eyes were wide with worry. "But how do we get to Mom? Richard has those big security men everywhere." "First, we need to find the bridal suite," Zoe decided, always the strategist. Mom said it was on the top floor. The children moved carefully through the hotel, dodging waiters carrying trays of champagne and photographers setting up equipment. They reached the elevator, but a large man in a dark suit stood guard. "Excuse me," the security guard said, stepping in front of them. "Where are you three supposed to be?" "We want to see our mom," Zoe said confidently. The guard checked a list on his phone. "You must be the Taylor triplets. You're scheduled to be in the children's playroom until the ceremony. No exceptions, Mr. Caldwell's orders." "But we need to tell our mom something important," Zach insisted. The guard shook his head. "Sorry, kids. No disruptions before the wedding. Those are my instructions." Defeated for the moment, the triplets retreated down the hallway. "He won't let us through," Zane said, his voice trembling. "What do we do now?" "We find someone else to help us," Zoe replied, her young face determined. Meanwhile, in the bridal suite, Jasmine stood by the window looking out at the Chicago skyline. She felt a strange flutter of anxiety that she couldn't explain. "You okay?" Tasha asked, adjusting her own bridesmaid dress. "You look worried." "I don't know," Jasmine admitted. "Something feels off. Maybe it's just wedding nerves." Professor Eleanor Simmons entered from the adjoining room, her expression serious. "Jasmine, I hope you don't mind, but I've been doing some research on Richard's business history." "Research?" Jasmine turned from the window. "What kind of research?" "There's a pattern I've noticed," Eleanor said carefully. 3 of his previous business partners were women who lost control of their companies after becoming romantically involved with him. Jasmine frowned. "That's just coincidence. Richard explained all that. Those companies were failing, and he couldn't save them." "Perhaps," Eleanor conceded. "But don't you think it's odd that your whirlwind romance coincided perfectly with your security software breakthrough?" "Are you suggesting he's only interested in my work?" Jasmine's voice rose. "That's ridiculous. Richard loves me and the triplets." Tasha stepped between them. "Today's not the day for this, Professor. Jasmine has enough on her mind." Across town, in a small, cluttered apartment, investigative journalist Daniel Cooper stared at his computer screen. The email had arrived just 30 minutes ago from an anonymous source. "Look into Richard Caldwell's business acquisitions through personal relationships. Pattern of exploitation. He's marrying Jasmine Taylor today for her security software patents. More evidence available." Daniel quickly searched for information on Jasmine Taylor and found articles about her groundbreaking security software. Then he looked up Richard Caldwell's business history, discovering a disturbing pattern of companies acquired through personal relationships that ended badly for his partners. "Not again," Daniel muttered, grabbing his jacket. His sister had lost her design company to a similar scheme years ago. He wouldn't let it happen to another woman if he could help it. Back at the hotel, the triplets had approached several staff members, but no one took them seriously. "Please, our mom is in danger," Zoe told a housekeeper, who smiled indulgently. "Oh, sweetheart, wedding days are always full of drama," the woman replied. "I'm sure your mom is just fine." Frustrated, the children continued their search for help. Zane suddenly stopped walking and pointed. "Look, it's Richard's assistant, the lady with the clipboard who's always telling us to be quiet." Vanessa Reed stood nearby, checking items off a list while speaking to a florist. The triplets had always been wary of her as she seemed completely devoted to Richard. "Should we try her?" Zach asked, doubtfully. "She works for Richard," Zane whispered. "She won't help us." Zoe studied Vanessa for a moment. "Maybe. But she's our best chance right now." They approached cautiously. Vanessa looked up from her clipboard and sighed. "There you are. You three should be in the playroom. The ceremony starts in less than 2 hours." "We need to talk to you," Zoe said firmly. "It's about Richard." "Mr. Caldwell is very busy right now," Vanessa replied automatically. "We know what he's planning," Zach said, holding up the tablet. "We recorded him." Vanessa's professional smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" "He doesn't really love our mom," Zane said, his eyes filling with tears. "He just wants her computer program." "And he called us baggage," Zoe added, her small hands clenched into fists. Vanessa glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Children, these are serious accusations. Mr. Caldwell is a respected businessman." "Listen," Zach insisted, pressing play on the tablet. Richard's cold voice filled the space between them. "Once we're married, Illinois law gives me partial rights to her intellectual property. We'll transfer the patent ownership gradually, then I'll file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences." Vanessa's face paled as she heard Marcus ask, "And the kids?" "Unfortunate baggage," Richard's voice replied, "but necessary to maintain the facade until we secure the patents." Vanessa quickly knelt down to the triplets' level. "Where did you get this?" "We were exploring the hotel and heard Richard talking in his office," Zoe explained. "Zach recorded it on my tablet." Vanessa looked troubled. After 7 years as Richard's personal assistant, she had suspected his tactics weren't always ethical, but she had remained loyal out of a misguided affection for him. Hearing him dismiss children as baggage, however, crossed a line she couldn't ignore. "Come with me," she said quietly, leading them to a small conference room and closing the door. "Tell me everything." While the triplets explained their discovery to Vanessa, Daniel Cooper arrived at the Grand Palmer house. Using his press credentials, he convinced the front desk to confirm the wedding was indeed taking place that afternoon. Now he needed to find a way to speak with Jasmine before it was too late. In the bridal suite, Eleanor continued her gentle warnings. "I'm not saying he doesn't care for you, Jasmine. I'm saying there's a business angle you might not be seeing." "I appreciate your concern," Jasmine said stiffly. "But I know what I'm doing. Richard has been nothing but supportive of me and the triplets." In the small conference room, Vanessa listened to the recording again, her hands shaking slightly. "I knew Richard was ruthless in business," she admitted. "But this— Do you believe us now?" Zoe asked. Vanessa nodded slowly. "Yes, I do. I recognize both voices. That's definitely Richard and Marcus." "Will you help us tell Mom?" Zach asked hopefully. Vanessa checked her watch. Only 1 hour and 45 minutes until the ceremony. She thought about her years working for Richard, about the questionable tactics she'd witnessed and rationalized away. She thought about her own complicity in his schemes. And then she looked at 3 pairs of identical amber eyes filled with worry for their mother. "Yes," she said finally, "I'll help you." "How do we get past the security guards?" Zane asked. Vanessa stood up, a new determination in her posture. "I know this hotel's layout better than Richard's security team. There are service elevators and staff corridors they won't be watching." "We need to hurry," Zoe urged. "The wedding is getting closer." "Let me get my access card," Vanessa said. "Then we'll find your mother." As they left the conference room, Vanessa spotted Richard's head of security scanning the lobby. She quickly guided the children behind a large display of wedding flowers. "This won't be easy," she whispered. "Richard has eyes everywhere today, but we're going to try." The triplets exchanged determined looks. Their mother had always protected them. Now it was their turn to protect her. "Let's go," Zoe said, her young voice steady despite the enormous task ahead of them. Time was running out. Upstairs, Jasmine was already having her makeup finished, still unaware of the true nature of the man she was about to marry. And somewhere in the Grand Hotel, Richard continued his preparations, confident that his scheme was proceeding perfectly. Vanessa led the triplets through a narrow service corridor, her access card opening doors that regular hotel guests never saw. The walls here were plain, without the fancy decorations of the main hallways. "This way," she whispered. "The service elevator will take us up to the floor below the bridal suite. From there, we can use the stairs." "Won't Richard's security people be watching the stairs too?" Zach asked, clutching his tablet with the recording. Vanessa nodded. "Probably the main ones, but there's a staff staircase for emergencies. Not many people know about it." They hurried past laundry carts and surprised hotel workers. Zane stumbled on a cleaning bucket, and Vanessa caught him before he fell. "Careful," she said gently. "Are you okay?" "I can feel it," Zane whispered, his eyes wide. "Richard is angry. He's looking for us." Zoe took her brother's hand. "It's going to be all right. We're going to reach Mom in time." Meanwhile, in his downtown Chicago apartment, Daniel Cooper was gathering every piece of information he could find on Richard Caldwell. His desk was covered with printed articles and his computer screen showed financial reports. 3 companies in 5 years, Daniel muttered as he read, all founded by women who became romantically involved with Caldwell, all lost control of their businesses after the relationship ended. Daniel picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Lisa, it's Daniel Cooper. I need everything you have on Caldwell Tech's financial status." "Yes, it's urgent. I think he's about to do it again." He hung up and paced the small apartment. The clock on his wall showed 1 hour and 30 minutes until the wedding ceremony. He grabbed his car keys and rushed out the door. Back at the Palmer house, Jasmine stood in her wedding dress as the makeup artist added final touches. The bridal suite was filled with flowers, champagne, and elaborate gift baskets from Richard's business associates. "All done," the makeup artist said. "You look beautiful." After the woman left, Eleanor Simmons approached Jasmine cautiously. "I know you don't want to hear this today," Eleanor said, "but I've found more information about Richard's business history that concerns me." Jasmine sighed. "Professor, please. Not now." "Just look at these," Eleanor persisted, opening a folder. "These are articles about 3 women who founded successful tech companies. All 3 became involved with Richard. All 3 lost their companies within a year of the relationship ending." Jasmine reluctantly looked at the papers. "This doesn't prove anything. Business partnerships fail all the time." Catherine Morris lost her cybersecurity firm after dating Richard for 9 months. Eleanor pointed to a photo of a young woman. Jennifer Patel lost her software company after a 6-month relationship. And Maria Santiago lost her data analytics business after being engaged to Richard for 4 months. Tasha, who had been arranging Jasmine's veil, moved closer to look at the articles. "That's quite a pattern," Tasha said slowly. "It's coincidence," Jasmine insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. "Jasmine," Eleanor said gently, "your relationship with Richard began exactly when your security software was gaining attention. 8 months is the longest he's ever spent on one of these acquisitions." Tasha picked up one of the articles. "Didn't Richard tell you that Catherine Morris was incompetent? That she almost ruined her own company?" Jasmine nodded. "Yes, he said he tried to help her but couldn't save the business." "According to this," Tasha said, reading from the article, "Catherine Morris was a graduate of MIT with multiple patents before she even met Richard." On the service elevator, Vanessa and the triplets were heading to the upper floors when Vanessa's phone buzzed with a text message. "Oh no," she said, reading the screen. "Richard knows you're missing from the playroom. He's put all security on alert." "What do we do?" Zane asked, his voice shaking. "We keep going," Zoe said firmly. "Mom needs us." The elevator stopped and Vanessa carefully checked the hallway before leading them out. At the main entrance of the hotel, a woman with tired eyes and elegant clothes stepped out of a taxi. Marcus Whitman rushed to meet her. "Elizabeth, you're late," he said, checking his watch. "The ceremony starts in just over an hour." "I had a doctor's appointment," Elizabeth Whitman replied. "We need to talk, Marcus." "Now?" Richard is counting on me to handle last-minute details. Yes, now, Elizabeth said firmly. I got my test results back. Marcus's expression changed as he noticed the seriousness in his wife's face. What's wrong? I have cancer, Marcus. Stage 3. Marcus stared at her, his world shifting. Cancer? But why didn't you tell me about these tests? I didn't want to worry you, Elizabeth said. But now I need to know something. This business with Richard and Jasmine Taylor's patents, is it legal? Marcus looked away. It's complicated. Richard found a loophole in Illinois marriage law. Is it right? Elizabeth pressed. Would you be proud to tell our children about it someday? Marcus had no answer. Upstairs, Richard checked his appearance in a mirror and called his head of security. Any sign of the triplets? He asked. Not yet, sir. We're checking all public areas. Find them, Richard ordered. I want them cleaned up and in position for the ceremony. No exceptions. Yes, sir. We've doubled the guards on the bridal suite floor as requested. Richard smiled. Excellent. We can't have any interruptions before the vows. In the service corridor, Vanessa stopped suddenly. The staff staircase is through that door, she said, pointing. But there's a security guard who wasn't there before. The triplets peered around her to see a large man in a dark suit standing by the door. How do we get past him? Zach whispered. Vanessa thought quickly. I have an idea, but you three need to be very quiet and follow my lead. She approached the guard confidently. Excuse me, I have a delivery for the Richardson wedding setup. The guard frowned. This area is restricted today. You need to use the main service elevator. I tried, but it's stuck on the 3rd floor, Vanessa lied smoothly. Mr. Caldwell will be very upset if the special champagne isn't in place before the ceremony. While Vanessa distracted the guard, the triplets slipped quietly behind a large laundry cart. Zach gave Zoe a small nod and she knocked over a stack of towels on the other side of the hallway. The guard turned toward the noise. What was that? Probably just the housekeeping cart, Vanessa said quickly. These old carts are always falling apart. When the guard stepped away to check, Vanessa signaled the triplets to rush through the staircase door. She quickly followed them, letting the door close softly behind them. That was amazing, Zoe whispered once they were safely in the stairwell. We're not safe yet, Vanessa warned. We still need to get past the guards outside the bridal suite. In his car, Daniel Cooper was stuck in downtown Chicago traffic, drumming his fingers nervously on the steering wheel. Come on, he muttered, checking the time. Just 1 hour until the ceremony. His phone rang and he quickly answered. Daniel Cooper. It's Lisa. I got that financial information you wanted on Caldwell Tech. It's worse than you thought. The company is nearly bankrupt. They've been keeping up appearances, but they need a major cash infusion or new technology to survive. Like Jasmine Taylor's security software, Daniel said grimly. Exactly. That patent could be worth billions with the right development. Thanks, Lisa. I owe you one. Daniel hung up and honked his horn in frustration at the traffic. In the bridal suite, Jasmine sat alone for a moment, staring at the articles Eleanor had shown her. Could her professor be right? Was Richard only interested in her patent? A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Tasha opened it to find a hotel staff member. Ms. Taylor, Mr. Caldwell sent this for you. The woman handed over a small jewelry box. Inside was a beautiful diamond bracelet with a note, To my future wife. All my love, Richard. Jasmine touched the diamonds and felt tears in her eyes. How could a man who gave such thoughtful gifts be planning to betray her? But then she remembered something. Last week, when she'd mentioned a problem with her software coding, Richard had asked more questions about the patent ownership than about the technical issue itself. For the first time, real doubt crept into her mind. In the service stairwell, Vanessa and the triplets had reached the floor of the bridal suite. Vanessa peered through the small window in the door. There are 2 security guards in the hallway, she reported. We need another distraction. I might have an idea, Zach said, looking at his tablet. but I need to connect to the hotel's system." "Can you do that?" Vanessa asked, surprised. Zach nodded confidently. "Mom taught me some tricks. She says I got all her computer genes." As the triplets huddled around the tablet, the wedding march rehearsal began playing in the grand ballroom below. Time was running out. Zach's fingers moved quickly across the tablet screen as he accessed the hotel's system. His face brightened with success. "I'm in. The hotel has smart controls for everything. Lights, doors, room service calls." "How did you learn to do that?" Vanessa asked, amazed. Zach shrugged. "Mom lets me practice on her old computers. She says I'm a natural." "Can you make a distraction?" Zoe urged, peeking through the door window at the guards. "Yes," Zach said confidently. "I can make all the room service phones ring on this floor. The guards will have to check what's happening." With a few more taps, Zach activated his plan. Suddenly, phones began ringing in every room on the floor. The security guards looked at each other in confusion. "What's going on?" one guard asked. "System glitch," the other replied. "Better check it out." As the guards moved away from their posts to investigate, Vanessa quickly led the triplets into the hallway. They rushed toward the bridal suite door. Inside the suite, Jasmine held the diamond bracelet from Richard, her thoughts troubled. Tasha noticed her friend's expression. "What's wrong?" Tasha asked. "You should be happy today." "I keep thinking about what Eleanor said," Jasmine admitted, "about Richard's pattern with other women inventors." Tasha sat beside her. "My brother called earlier. He works at Tech Hub, and he's heard rumors that Richard's company is in financial trouble." "Richard never mentioned any financial problems," Jasmine said, frowning. "He talks like his company is stronger than ever." A series of loud knocks interrupted their conversation. Tasha opened the door to find 3 breathless children and a nervous-looking woman. "Mom!" the triplets cried in unison, rushing to Jasmine. "What are you doing here?" Jasmine asked, surprised. "You're supposed to be in the playroom getting ready." "We have something important to tell you," Zoe said urgently. "Who are you?" Tasha asked Vanessa suspiciously. "I'm Vanessa Reed, Richard's personal assistant," Vanessa explained quickly. "These children have discovered something you need to hear before the wedding." Jasmine looked confused. "What's going on?" "Richard doesn't really love you," Zane blurted out, his eyes filling with tears. "He just wants your computer program," Zach added, holding up his tablet. Jasmine's face softened. "Oh, sweethearts. I know this is a big change for all of us, but Richard cares about us very much." "No, he doesn't," Zoe insisted. "We heard him talking. Listen." Before Zach could play the recording, the suite door burst open. Richard's head of security entered, followed by 2 other guards. "There you are," the head security man said sternly. "Mr. Caldwell has been looking for you 3. Please escort the children back to the playroom," he instructed the other guards. "Ms. Reed, Mr. Caldwell would like to see you immediately." "Wait," Vanessa protested. "Mrs. Taylor needs to hear—" "Now, Ms. Reed," the security chief interrupted firmly, "and I'll take that tablet. Hotel property shouldn't be used by children unsupervised." He grabbed the tablet from Zach's hands before anyone could stop him. "That's my tablet," Zoe cried. "Give it back." "It will be returned after the ceremony," the man said coldly. "Mr. Caldwell's orders." The guards began leading the struggling triplets and Vanessa from the room. "Mom, don't marry him," Zane called out desperately. "He called us baggage." As the door closed behind them, Jasmine stood frozen in shock. "Baggage?" she whispered. "Richard would never say that about my children." Tasha looked troubled. "Would he? You've only known him for 8 months, Jasmine." In Richard's preparation room, Marcus paced nervously. His conversation with his wife had shaken him deeply. Richard noticed his partner's distress. "Pull yourself together, Marcus," Richard snapped. "The ceremony starts in 30 minutes. "My wife has cancer," Marcus said quietly. "Stage 3. Richard barely looked up from adjusting his cufflinks. "I'm sorry to hear that. We'll send flowers. Now focus on today." She asked me if what we're doing is something I'd be proud to tell our children about someday. Richard turned to face his partner. Sentiment is a luxury for people who don't understand business, Marcus. Once we have Jasmine's patents, your wife will have access to the best cancer treatments money can buy. By stealing another woman's work, Marcus said, his voice hardening. Not stealing, Richard corrected smoothly. Legally acquiring through marriage, there's a difference. A knock at the door interrupted them. Richard's head of security entered with Zoe's tablet. We found the children, sir. They were trying to show Ms. Taylor this recording. He played the audio from earlier that day. Richard's cold voice discussing his plans to acquire Jasmine's patents through marriage and then divorce her assistant. Richard's face darkened with anger. Where are they now? The children are being taken back to the playroom. Ms. Reed is waiting outside. Send her in, Richard ordered. When the security chief left, Richard turned to Marcus. This complicates things. Vanessa entered, her professional composure clearly shaken. You've been with me for 7 years, Richard said, his voice dangerously calm. And this is how you repay my trust? By helping those children interfere with my wedding? I heard the recording, Vanessa replied, standing her ground. You called those children baggage. You're planning to hurt their mother. I'm disappointed in you, Vanessa. Very disappointed. I've overlooked a lot working for you, Richard, Vanessa said. But using children, that's where I draw the line. Richard smiled coldly. You're fired, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. In the hotel lobby, Daniel Cooper finally arrived, slightly out of breath from running the final blocks through Chicago traffic. He approached the front desk showing his press credentials. I need to speak with Jasmine Taylor urgently, he explained. I'm sorry, sir, the receptionist replied. The Taylor-Caldwell wedding is a private event, no press allowed. Daniel noticed Eleanor Simmons crossing the lobby and rushed to intercept her. Professor Simmons? I'm Daniel Cooper, investigative journalist. I've been researching Richard Caldwell's business practices. Eleanor eyed him cautiously. What kind of research? I believe he's targeting Jasmine Taylor for her security software patent. His company is nearly bankrupt and her technology could save it. Eleanor's eyes widened. I knew something was wrong. Have you spoken to Jasmine? I can't get past security, Daniel explained. Can you help me reach her? Back in the bridal suite, Jasmine paced the room, deeply troubled by her children's outburst. Richard would never call my children baggage, she repeated. There must be some misunderstanding. Then why did his security take Zoe's tablet? Tasha asked. And why were the kids so upset? A knock at the door revealed Eleanor with Daniel Cooper. Eleanor, this is Daniel Cooper, Jasmine explained quickly. He's a journalist who's been investigating Richard. More accusations? Jasmine said tiredly. My children were just here saying Richard doesn't really love me. They're right, Daniel said bluntly. I have evidence that Richard's company is nearly bankrupt. Your security software patent is worth billions, exactly what he needs to save his business. That's ridiculous, Jasmine protested, but with less conviction than before. Is it? Daniel pulled out financial reports. These are public records showing Caldwell Tech is 3 months away from bankruptcy, and here are statements from 3 other women inventors who lost their patents after relationships with Richard. Jasmine took the papers with trembling hands. I can't believe this. We're getting married in less than 30 minutes. In the children's playroom, the triplets sat miserably under the watch of Richard's security team. We failed, Zane said sadly. Mom's going to marry him. No, she's not, Zoe declared. We just need a new plan. But they took my tablet with the recording, Zach pointed out. Then we'll tell everyone what we heard, Zoe decided. At the wedding, when they ask if anyone objects. The security guards won't let us leave, Zane worried. Zoe looked around the room, noticing a decorative vent near the floor. Maybe we don't have to use the door. Meanwhile, the wedding guests were being seated in the grand ballroom. Flowers and crystals decorated every surface, and a string quartet played softly. Richard stood at the front with the officiant, projecting the image of a happy groom. Marcus stood nearby as best man, his thoughts in turmoil as he watched the scene unfold. His wife's question echoed in his mind. "Would you be proud to tell our children about this someday?" A hotel staff member approached Richard. "Sir, we're ready to begin whenever you give the word." Richard checked his watch. "Has the bride confirmed she's ready?" "Not yet, sir. We're waiting for final confirmation." Richard's confident smile faltered slightly. "Go check on her, now." In the bridal suite, Jasmine stared at her reflection in the mirror, her wedding dress suddenly feeling too tight. The documents Daniel had shown her, combined with her children's desperate warning, had created a storm of doubt. "The ceremony is supposed to start now," Tasha said gently. "What do you want to do?" Before Jasmine could answer, another knock came at the door. A staff member called through, "Ms. Taylor, Mr. Caldwell is asking if you're ready to begin." Jasmine looked at Eleanor, Daniel, and Tasha, her mind racing. Her life and her children's future hung in the balance. "Tell them I'm coming," she said finally, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "But I need 5 more minutes." As the staff member left, Jasmine turned to her friends. "If what you're saying is true, I need proof my children will understand. I need to hear this recording they mentioned." "Then we need to find your children," Tasha said, already moving toward the door. The wedding march began to play in the grand ballroom. Guests rose from their seats, turning expectantly toward the doors where the bride would soon appear. The wedding march echoed through the grand ballroom of the Palmer house. Guests stood from their ornate chairs, turning toward the double doors at the back. Richard stood at the altar, his confident smile masking his growing impatience. His eyes occasionally darted to the tablet in his security chief's hand, the evidence that could ruin everything. "Where is she?" Richard whispered to Marcus. "She should be walking down the aisle by now." Marcus avoided his partner's gaze. "Maybe she's having last-minute preparations." In the children's playroom, the triplets huddled near the decorative vent Zoe had spotted. "I can fit through there," Zach said, measuring the opening with his hands. "Me too," Zoe agreed. "But what about the guards?" They looked at the 2 security men standing by the door, talking quietly. "I have an idea," Zane said. He walked to the craft table and picked up a jar of glitter. With a deep breath, he purposely knocked it over, sending thousands of tiny sparkles across the floor. "Oops," Zane said loudly. "I made a big mess." The guards turned in annoyance. "Can you help me clean it up?" Zane asked innocently. "It's getting everywhere." As the guards reluctantly moved to contain the glitter disaster, Zoe and Zach quickly removed the vent cover and squeezed through the opening. "Good luck," Zane whispered, staying behind to keep the guards distracted. In the bridal suite, Jasmine paced anxiously, still in her wedding dress. "We need to find the children and that recording," she said to Tasha, Eleanor, and Daniel. "But everyone's waiting for me downstairs." "I'll go look for the triplets," Tasha offered. "You stall for time." "How am I supposed to stall a wedding?" Jasmine asked desperately. "Walk very, very slowly," Eleanor suggested. "While I try to find Vanessa." She was with the children. She might know where they are now. Daniel checked his phone. "I have another idea. My editor just arrived outside. He can create a distraction if needed." Jasmine took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll go downstairs and start the ceremony. But I won't say I do until I know the truth." Meanwhile, Zoe and Zach crawled through the hotel's ventilation system using the sounds of the wedding music to guide them toward the ballroom. "It's really dusty in here," Zach whispered, sneezing quietly. "Keep going," Zoe encouraged. "We need to stop Mom from marrying Richard." Back in the ballroom, the wedding coordinator approached Richard. "The bride is on her way," she assured him. "Just a small delay with her veil." Richard nodded tightly, his perfect smile never faltering for the guests, but his eyes were cold as he whispered to his security chief. "Find those children and keep them contained," he ordered. "And where is Vanessa?" "We escorted her from the building, sir, as you instructed." "Good. And the tablet?" "Right here, sir." The security chief patted his pocket. The music shifted, and all heads turned as Jasmine finally appeared at the entrance of the ballroom. She looked stunning in her designer gown, but her smile was strained. She began her slow walk down the aisle, scanning the room for any sign of her children. In the ventilation system, Zoe and Zach had reached a grate overlooking the ballroom. They could see their mother walking slowly toward Richard. "We're too late," Zach whispered in panic. "No, we're not," Zoe insisted. "The wedding isn't over until they say I do. We need to get down there." They continued crawling, looking for an exit closer to the main floor. Eleanor slipped through a side door into the ballroom, spotting Vanessa being escorted toward the hotel exit by security. She quickly intercepted them. "Excuse me," Eleanor said authoritatively. "I need to speak with Ms. Reed." "Sorry, ma'am. Mr. Caldwell's orders," the security guard replied. "I'm sure Richard wouldn't want a scene during his wedding," Eleanor countered loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "Perhaps we could discuss this civilly?" The guard hesitated, not wanting to create a disturbance. Vanessa used this moment to pull away. "The children were trying to show Jasmine a recording," Vanessa said quickly. "Richard plans to steal her patents through marriage and then divorce her. He called her children baggage." Several guests nearby gasped at this information. At the altar, Jasmine finally reached Richard. He took her hands in his, squeezing them a bit too tightly. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice smooth. "I was beginning to worry." "Were you?" Jasmine asked, studying his face carefully. The officiant began the ceremony. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join Jasmine and Richard in matrimony." As the officiant spoke about love and trust, Jasmine noticed Marcus shifting uncomfortably beside Richard. She also saw Eleanor at the back of the room urgently speaking with Vanessa and several shocked-looking guests. Something was definitely wrong. "Marriage is a solemn commitment," the officiant continued, "built on honesty, respect, and mutual trust." Richard's smile never wavered, but his eyes kept darting to the back of the room where a small commotion was growing. Zoe and Zach had finally found an exit from the ventilation system, a vent near the floor at the side of the ballroom. They pushed the cover open and squeezed through, their fancy clothes now covered in dust. "There!" Zach pointed. "Mom is already with Richard." The officiant had reached the crucial part of the ceremony. If anyone can show just cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. The room fell silent for the traditional pause. Then the main doors burst open. Daniel's editor entered, followed by several journalists. "Richard Caldwell," the editor called out. "Care to comment on allegations that your company is facing bankruptcy?" Gasps filled the room. Richard's face flushed with anger. "Security!" he shouted. "Remove them immediately!" In the confusion, Zoe and Zach saw their chance. They ran down the center aisle. "Stop!" Zoe shouted, her voice clear and strong despite her small size. "Don't marry him, Mom!" All eyes turned to the dust-covered children running toward the altar. "What is the meaning of this?" the officiant asked, clearly flustered. Richard's security team moved to intercept the children, but Jasmine stepped forward. "Let them speak," she said firmly. "These children are clearly confused," Richard said, his voice tight. "Perhaps we should continue in private." "We have proof," Zach declared. "Richard doesn't love Mom. He just wants her computer program." "This is ridiculous," Richard scoffed. "Children have active imaginations." "The recording!" Zoe interrupted. "The guard took our tablet with the recording." All eyes turned to Richard's security chief, who instinctively touched his pocket where the tablet was hidden. Marcus suddenly stepped forward. "Give them the tablet." "Marcus?" Richard's voice held a warning. "Give them the tablet," Marcus repeated, louder this time. "My wife asked me today if I would be proud to tell our children about my business dealings. I want to answer yes." Richard's face darkened. "You're making a serious mistake." "No," Marcus said firmly. "I think I'm finally correcting one." The security chief hesitated, looking between Richard and Marcus. "That's my tablet," Zoe said, pointing. "You took it from us." From the back of the room, Vanessa called out, "I heard the recording too. It's Richard's voice discussing how he plans to use marriage to take Jasmine's patents." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Richard maintained his composure, though his eyes had turned icy. "This is clearly manipulated audio," he claimed. "These children are troubled. They've never wanted to share their mother." Jasmine looked from her children to Richard. "Let me hear the recording." The security chief, seeing the situation spiraling out of control, reluctantly handed the tablet to Marcus, who gave it to Zach. "Play it," Jasmine instructed her son. Zach's small fingers pressed the screen, and Richard's cold voice filled the silent ballroom. "Once we're married, Illinois law gives me partial rights to her intellectual property. We'll transfer the patent ownership gradually, then I'll file for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. She'll never see it coming." Then Marcus's voice, "And the kids?" "Unfortunate baggage," Richard's recorded voice replied dismissively, "but necessary to maintain the facade until we secure the patents." The ballroom erupted in shocked whispers. Jasmine stared at Richard, her face pale with anger and betrayal. "Is this real?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Richard lunged for the tablet. "This is obviously fake." "It's real," Marcus interrupted. "All of it. I'm sorry, Jasmine. I was part of this plan, but I can't do it anymore. Not after my wife's diagnosis, not after seeing these brave children." Daniel stepped forward with his evidence. "I have documentation showing Richard's company is nearly bankrupt. Your security software would save his business." Richard's charm finally cracked completely. "You'll regret this, all of you, especially you, Marcus." Jasmine looked at her children, their small faces determined despite being scared. She thought of all the late nights she'd spent developing her security software while they slept, dreaming of giving them a better life. With steady hands, she removed her engagement ring and held it out to Richard. "The wedding is off," she announced clearly. Richard's face contorted with rage. "You're making a terrible mistake." "No," Jasmine replied, gathering her children close. "I'm finally avoiding one." She turned to the shocked guests. "I apologize for the inconvenience, but there will be no wedding today." As security began escorting the furious Richard away, he shouted, "You'll regret this! No one walks away from me! I'll destroy your career!" Jasmine held her head high, her arms around her triplets. "You can try," she said calmly, "but you'll find my security system is very, very good." The grand ballroom of the Palmer house emptied in a rush of whispers and shocked faces. Hotel staff discreetly directed confused guests to a separate hall where refreshments were being served, while security kept reporters at bay. Jasmine, still in her wedding dress, huddled with her children in a small preparation room off the main corridor. "Are you mad at us, Mom?" Zane asked, his small face worried. Jasmine pulled her 3 children close. "No, sweethearts, I'm proud of you. You were so brave. Richard was going to take your computer program," Zach explained earnestly. "We heard him say it." "I know," Jasmine said softly. "You saved me from making a terrible mistake." Tasha entered the room carrying a garment bag. "I brought you some clothes. We should move you to a different hotel right away. Reporters are gathering outside." Eleanor joined them, followed by Daniel and Vanessa. The hotel manager offered a private suite on the top floor. "We can use the service elevator to avoid the press." Jasmine nodded gratefully, then turned to Vanessa. "Thank you for helping my children. I know it cost you your job." 7 years working for Richard," Vanessa said with a sad smile. "I ignored a lot of questionable things, but using children as baggage, that was my breaking point." Within the hour, Jasmine had changed out of her wedding dress and moved with her entourage to a secure suite at the top of the hotel. Room service trays covered the tables as the triplets, now in their regular clothes, built a blanket fort in the corner of the living area. "My phone won't stop ringing," Jasmine said, looking at the screen. Friends, family, reporters, even potential investors who were at the wedding. Daniel was typing rapidly on his laptop. Richard's PR team is already spinning the story. They're saying you fabricated the recording to extort a better prenuptial agreement." "That's ridiculous," Tasha exclaimed. "Jasmine never even asked for a prenup." "Truth doesn't matter in PR battles," Daniel explained. "Only who tells their story first and loudest. My editor is rushing my article to publication, but Richard has connections at major news outlets." Jasmine's phone buzzed with a text message. She read it and her face paled. "What is it?" Eleanor asked. "It's from Richard," Jasmine said. "You have no idea what you've done. By Monday, no tech company in America will touch your software or your name." Across town in his penthouse apartment, Richard paced furiously while his legal team and PR consultants watched nervously. "I want her destroyed," Richard seethed. "Professionally, financially, completely. By morning, I want the narrative to be that she's an unstable gold digger who used her children to manipulate public sympathy." His lead PR consultant cleared her throat. "Mr. Caldwell, we should consider a more measured approach. The optics of attacking a single mother." "I don't care about optics," Richard shouted, slamming his fist on his desk. "She humiliated me in front of every important business contact I have. Fix this." The head of his legal team spoke up. "We've prepared cease and desist letters for Ms. Taylor, Ms. Reed, and Mr. Cooper, claiming defamation and breach of confidentiality. As for Marcus Whitman, we're reviewing all options to dissolve your partnership with maximum penalties." "Good," Richard said coldly. "Send everything immediately. I want Jasmine to wake up tomorrow drowning in legal threats." Back at the hotel suite, the triplets had fallen asleep in their makeshift fort after the emotional day. Jasmine gently tucked blankets around them, then rejoined the adults who were strategizing around the dining table. "Richard will use everything he has against you," Vanessa warned. "I've seen him destroy people before. He never forgives what he sees as betrayal." "What about the recording?" Tasha asked. "Isn't that proof of his plans?" Daniel shook his head. "His legal team will claim it was edited or taken out of context. They might even argue the children were trespassing when they made it." "We need a lawyer," Eleanor said firmly. "Someone specialized in intellectual property." Jasmine nodded, pulling out her phone. "I have someone in mind. My college roommate Samantha Goldman is a partner at Reed & Williams. She specializes in tech patents." As Jasmine stepped away to make the call, Zach stirred in the blanket fort. He crawled out and approached the adults, his eyes still heavy with sleep. "Is Mom going to be okay?" he asked worriedly. Tasha pulled him onto her lap. "Your mom is going to be just fine. She's very smart and very strong." "But Richard is very rich," Zach said, "and he's really, really mad." "Sometimes," Eleanor told him gently, "the richest person isn't the strongest. Your mom created something valuable with her own mind. That makes her very powerful too." In another part of Chicago, Marcus sat in a quiet hospital waiting room while his wife Elizabeth underwent additional tests. His phone displayed 27 missed calls from Richard and numerous threatening text messages. A doctor approached him. "Mr. Whitman, we've reviewed your wife's scans. The cancer has spread further than we initially thought." Marcus felt his world narrowing to this single moment, Richard's threats suddenly insignificant. "What are our options?" he asked, his voice steady despite his fear. "There's an experimental treatment program at Mayo Clinic," the doctor explained. "The success rate is promising, but insurance rarely covers it." "Cost isn't an issue," Marcus said firmly. "We'll do whatever gives her the best chance." As the doctor left, Marcus looked at his phone as it rang again with Richard's number. This time, he answered. "You've destroyed our friendship and our business," Richard hissed without preamble. "I will make sure you never work in tech again." "My wife has cancer," Marcus replied calmly. "That's my reality now, not your threats. I've already sent evidence of our conversations about Jasmine's patents to my lawyer. If you come after me, it all goes public." He ended the call and turned off his phone, focusing on what truly mattered now. Early the next morning, Jasmine woke to urgent knocking. She opened the bedroom door to find Daniel holding his laptop. Richard's PR offensive has started, he said grimly. He gave an exclusive interview claiming you engineered the wedding drama when he refused to add your name to his company. Jasmine quickly read the article on Daniel's screen. This is completely false. I never asked for any role in his company. It gets worse, Daniel continued. He's suggesting you coached the triplets to lie and that you've been shopping your security software to his competitors while accepting his financial support. Tasha emerged from the second bedroom, checking her phone. Twitter is already taking sides. Dur's Team Jasmine versus Gold Digger exposed. Jasmine sank onto the sofa, momentarily overwhelmed. How can he just lie like this? Because it works, Vanessa said, joining them. I've watched him do this before. By the time the truth comes out, the damage is already done. A new knock at the door revealed a hotel security officer. Ms. Taylor, we've had some concerning activity. Several photographers were caught attempting to access this floor, and our computer system detected multiple attempts to hack into the hotel's guest registry. Richard, Vanessa confirmed. He's trying to find exactly where you are. We need to move you to a different location, the security officer continued, for your safety and your children's. Jasmine looked at her sleeping triplets. Just yesterday they were preparing for a wedding. Now they were essentially in hiding. Her phone rang. Samantha Goldman returning her call from last night. Sam, thank you for calling back, Jasmine said with relief. I just read Richard's interview, Samantha replied. It's character assassination, plain and simple. But I've dealt with men like him before. Can you meet me at my office in 2 hours? Yes, but we need a secure location afterward. Richard is already trying to find us. My firm keeps an apartment for clients in sensitive situations, Samantha offered. It's unmarked, secure, and Richard won't know to look there. After ending the call, Jasmine gently woke her children. We need to go to a new place, she explained softly. Is Richard still looking for us? Zoe asked, immediately alert. Yes, but we're going to stay somewhere safe while we figure things out. Zach sat up, his young face serious. Mom, I need to make copies of the recording from my tablet. Richard might try to delete it. Jasmine smiled at her son's technical thinking. That's very smart, Zach. We'll do that right away. While the children got dressed, Eleanor approached Jasmine with a concerned expression. I just heard from a colleague at Northwestern. Richard has already contacted the university, questioning the originality of your security software algorithm, suggesting parts of it were developed while you were a student using university resources. That's completely false, Jasmine said, her voice rising in frustration. I developed every line of code after graduation in our apartment while the triplets were sleeping. I know, Eleanor assured her, but he's trying to create doubt about your ownership. The university will investigate any formal complaint, even a baseless one. It could freeze your ability to license the software while the investigation proceeds. Jasmine took a deep breath, steadying herself. Richard thinks he can bully me into giving up. He doesn't understand what it means to be a single mother of triplets for 6 years. I've faced worse than him and survived. As they prepared to leave the hotel through a service entrance, Zach tugged on his mother's sleeve. Mom, we have our college money saved in the bank. You can use it to fight Richard. Tears filled Jasmine's eyes at her son's generous offer. That's very sweet, but that money is for your future. But you're our future, Zane said simply. Jasmine knelt down, gathering all 3 children in her arms. Listen to me. Richard may have more money and more powerful friends right now, but we have something he'll never have. What? Zoe asked. The truth, Jasmine said firmly, and each other. That makes us stronger than he could ever be. As they slipped out of the hotel into a waiting car, Jasmine knew the fight was just beginning. Richard had money, connections, and a head start with his version of events, but she had her brilliant children, loyal friends, and a lifetime of overcoming obstacles. Most importantly, she had her code, the security software she'd created during countless late nights after putting her triplets to bed. Richard might try to steal it, but he could never match the mind that created it. 1 week after the wedding that wasn't, Jasmine sat at a small desk in a modest suite at the Winthrop Hotel on Chicago's North Side. Papers covered every surface: legal documents, financial reports, and printouts of news articles about Richard Caldwell's jilted groom narrative that had dominated headlines for days. "How are we looking, Sam?" Jasmine asked, rubbing her tired eyes. Samantha Goldman, her college roommate turned high-powered attorney, sorted through a stack of patent documents. With her sharp suits and no-nonsense attitude, Samantha had become the general of Jasmine's defense team. "I've filed for emergency injunctions to prevent Richard from making any claims on your software," Samantha explained. "And I've contacted the patent office to strengthen your ownership documentation." Vanessa entered the room carrying coffee for everyone. After being fired by Richard, she had immediately joined Jasmine's team, bringing valuable insider knowledge. "I found more internal documents," Vanessa said, setting down a flash drive. "Financial reports Richard kept hidden from investors. They show his company has less than 3 months of operating funds left." "That explains his rush to marry me and get my software," Jasmine said. "He wasn't just being romantic when he proposed after knowing me for only 4 months. The triplets sat in the corner of the hotel suite, surrounded by their own workspace of tablets, paper, and colored markers. Zach had taken charge of creating what he called their evidence vault, a secure digital archive of everything they had gathered against Richard. "Mom, I finished the backup copies of the recording," Zach announced proudly. "I put them on 6 different devices and 2 cloud servers with password protection." "That's excellent work, Zach," Jasmine smiled at her son. Despite everything, seeing her children's resilience filled her with strength. Tasha arrived with grocery bags. She had taken charge of keeping everyone fed and making sure the triplets maintained some normalcy despite living in a hotel. "I brought sandwiches, fruit, and those chocolate cookies the kids like," she said, setting the bags on the kitchenette counter. "Also, I picked up more clothes from your apartment. The reporters are still camping outside, but I used the back entrance." Daniel Cooper sat nearby, his laptop open as he worked on a follow-up article to his viral exposé about the wedding. His first piece had reached millions of readers, bringing attention to Richard's business practices from regulators and former victims alike. "3 more women have contacted me," Daniel said, looking up from his screen. "All former business partners of Richard who lost their companies after personal relationships with him. They're willing to go on record now." Eleanor Simmons, who had taken a leave of absence from Northwestern University to help Jasmine, was coordinating with academic contacts to document the development timeline of Jasmine's software. "I've collected statements from 5 professors who can verify you developed this algorithm independently after graduation," Eleanor said. "Richard's attempt to claim university ownership is completely baseless." A knock at the door made everyone freeze. Jasmine motioned for the triplets to move to the bedroom as Tasha checked the peephole. "It's Marcus," she announced with relief. Marcus Whitman entered, looking tired but determined. His wife's cancer treatment had begun, but he still made time to help Jasmine's case against his former business partner. "Richard called me again," Marcus said. "He offered to drop the lawsuit against me if I sign a statement saying I never heard him discuss plans to take your patents." "What did you tell him?" Jasmine asked. "I told him I've already provided sworn testimony about his plans," Marcus replied, "and that my wife asked me to set a better example for our children than I have in business with him." Samantha gestured for Marcus to sit. "Your testimony is crucial. You're the only insider besides Vanessa who can confirm Richard's intentions." Zoe emerged from the bedroom, followed by her brothers. "Is Marcus going to help us beat Richard?" "I'm certainly trying," Marcus said with a sad smile. "I helped create this problem. I want to fix it." Zach approached Marcus with a tablet. "Can you look at these files? We found them on Richard's company website. The security software they're advertising sounds a lot like Mom's." Marcus reviewed the pages with growing concern. "This is definitely based on your mother's algorithm, just with different terminology. He's already positioning to claim it as his company's innovation. That's why we need to move faster, Samantha urged. I've arranged a meeting with 3 potential investors tomorrow who weren't connected to Richard. They're interested in Jasmine's software on its technical merits. Jasmine looked uncertain. But Richard told everyone in the tech industry that my software is either stolen or faulty. Not everyone believes him, Daniel countered. My article showed clear evidence of his pattern of deception. People are questioning his version of events. Eleanor's phone buzzed. She read the message with a frown. My contact at the university says Richard has escalated his claims. He's now saying you shared confidential university research with competitors. That's completely false, Jasmine said. I never had access to any confidential research. Richard doesn't need the truth, Vanessa explained. He just needs to create enough doubt to scare away investors and partners. Suddenly, Zach's tablet began beeping loudly. Someone's trying to hack into our cloud storage. They're after the recording and evidence files. Richard, Vanessa said grimly. He has a team of expert hackers on payroll. Jasmine rushed to her son's side. Can you block them, Zach? The 6-year-old's fingers moved quickly across the screen. I'm changing all the passwords and moving the files to the secure server you built, Mom. I'll help, Vanessa offered, sitting beside Zach. I know the methods Richard's team uses. While they worked to secure their digital evidence, Samantha continued outlining their legal strategy on a whiteboard. We have 3 fronts to fight on, she explained. First, protecting Jasmine's patent rights. Second, defending against Richard's defamation campaign. Third, gathering evidence of his fraudulent business practices to share with regulators. What about money? Tasha asked practically. Legal battles are expensive, and Richard has blocked Jasmine from most potential investors. I've been thinking about that, Jasmine said. What if we launch a smaller version of my security software directly to consumers? A personal data protection app that people could use right away? That could work, Marcus nodded. Richard is focused on the enterprise-level application of your algorithm. A consumer version would access a different market entirely. And establish your ownership publicly, Eleanor added. Once people are using your software with your name on it, Richard's claims become much harder to maintain. Zane, who had been quietly drawing at a small table, approached the adults with a large paper. I made something for our team. The paper showed a colorful drawing of all of them. Jasmine, the triplets, Tasha, Eleanor, Daniel, Vanessa, Marcus, and Samantha, each labeled with their special powers. Mom has super smart brain, Zane explained, pointing to each figure. Zach has computer magic. Zoe has leader strength. I have feeling power because I can tell when people are good or bad. He continued around the drawing. Tasha has helper hands. Professor Eleanor has wisdom eyes. Daniel has truth words. Vanessa has inside knowledge. Marcus has brave heart. And Ms. Samantha has law force. The adults exchanged touched glances at the child's simple but accurate assessment of their contributions. This is perfect, Zane, Jasmine said, hugging her sensitive son. We are a team, and each person brings something important. Should we put it on the wall? Zane asked hopefully. Absolutely, Jasmine agreed. It will remind us of our strengths when things get tough. As Tasha helped Zane hang the drawing, Jasmine's phone buzzed with a text message. Her expression hardened as she read it. It's from Richard, she told the others. I'm willing to discuss an amicable resolution to our situation. Meet me privately tomorrow at noon, Palmer House, Suite 1200. Come alone if you want this resolved quickly. It's a trap, Vanessa said immediately. He wants to intimidate you without witnesses. Or record you saying something he can use against you, Daniel added. Jasmine looked thoughtful. What if we turned this to our advantage? He doesn't know how much evidence we have or who's helping us. It's too dangerous, Tasha protested. He's desperate and angry. Which makes him more likely to make mistakes, Samantha pointed out. If we prepare properly, this meeting could give us valuable leverage. I don't like it, Marcus said. I've seen Richard when he feels cornered. He becomes unpredictable. The triplets had gathered around their mother, listening intently. Zoe tugged on Jasmine's sleeve. "Mom, remember what you taught us about bullies?" she asked. "You said we should stand tall but never meet them alone." Jasmine smiled at her daughter's wisdom. "You're right, Zoe, and I won't go alone. We'll use Richard's invitation, but we'll do it our way." As the team began planning their response to Richard's message, Jasmine felt a strange sense of clarity. 1 week ago, she had been minutes away from marrying a man who saw her only as a means to acquire her technology. Now she was building something much more valuable, a coalition of people united by truth and integrity. She looked around the hotel suite at her unlikely allies: a lawyer, a professor, a journalist, an executive assistant, a business insider, her loyal friend, and 3 incredibly brave 6-year-olds. Together, they might just be strong enough to stand against Richard Caldwell's wealth and influence. Zach's tablet beeped again with another hacking attempt. "They're not giving up," he said worriedly. "Neither are we," Jasmine replied, her determination unwavering. "Let's show Richard what happens when he underestimates a single mother and her team." 3 weeks after receiving Richard's message, Jasmine stood backstage at the Chicago Technology Summit, the largest tech industry gathering in the Midwest. Instead of meeting Richard privately as he had demanded, she had spent the time building her case and preparing for this moment. "Are you ready?" Daniel asked, adjusting the small camera he would use to live stream whatever happened next. Jasmine nodded, straightening her professional navy blue blazer. "As ready as I'll ever be." On the main stage of the massive convention center, Richard Caldwell was preparing to give the keynote address. His company had sponsored the event, ensuring he had the prime speaking slot. Large screens displayed the Caldwell Tech logo while hundreds of industry leaders, investors, and media filled the audience. "He has no idea you're here?" Samantha asked, reviewing legal documents one last time. "None," Vanessa confirmed. "I used my industry contacts to get us backstage access. Richard fired his entire security team after the wedding incident and hired new people who don't know what any of us look like." Eleanor approached their small group. "The SEC representatives are here, sitting in the 3rd row. Marcus pointed them out to me." "Good," Samantha nodded. "They need to witness this firsthand." Jasmine's phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. "At hotel with kids. All good. Knock him dead." "Is Tasha keeping the triplets occupied?" Eleanor asked. "Yes, they're watching movies at the hotel," Jasmine replied, putting her phone away. "I didn't want them anywhere near Richard after everything that's happened." What Jasmine didn't know was that at that very moment Tasha was actually standing at the back of the convention hall with the triplets. "Are you sure this is okay?" Tasha whispered to Zoe. "Your mom specifically wanted you to stay at the hotel." "We started this fight," Zoe insisted. "We deserve to see Mom win. Plus, I need to be here in case there's a problem with my code," Zach added, clutching his tablet. Zane nodded in agreement. "And I can feel it. Mom needs us here." Tasha sighed, unable to argue with their determination. "Just stay close to me and out of sight, okay?" On stage, the lights dimmed and a spotlight illuminated Richard as he walked to the podium. The audience applauded politely. "Thank you for joining me today," Richard began, his charm in full effect. "For the past year, my team at Caldwell Tech has been developing a revolutionary security platform that will change how we protect sensitive data forever." Backstage, Jasmine listened intently as Richard described features that were eerily similar to her own software. "He's literally presenting my work as his own," she whispered to Samantha. "Every detail, just with different terminology." Richard continued confidently. "Today, I'm proud to announce Caldwell Guard, the most advanced security protocol ever created. Let me demonstrate how it works." A large screen behind Richard displayed a complex interface as he began typing commands. "This is it," Jasmine said to her team. He's using the stolen version of my software. Zach, watching from the back of the hall, whispered to his sisters, "Mom's backdoor code should activate any second now." "What's a backdoor code?" Zane asked. "It's like a secret entrance Mom built into her program," Zoe explained. "If anyone copies it without permission, she can control it." On stage, Richard was mid-sentence when the screen behind him suddenly flashed red. Large text appeared. "Unauthorized duplicate detected." The audience murmured in confusion. Richard turned to look at the screen, his confident smile faltering. "Just a minor technical issue," he assured everyone, frantically typing commands. But the system continued to display error messages, completely unresponsive to his efforts. Backstage, Jasmine nodded to Daniel. "Now." Daniel began his live stream as Jasmine walked confidently onto the stage. The audience gasped at her unexpected appearance. "Hello, Richard," Jasmine said calmly, her voice amplified by the microphone she carried. "Having trouble with my software?" Richard's face flushed with anger. "Security!" he shouted. "Before your security team removes me," Jasmine said loudly, addressing the audience. "You should know that what Mr. Caldwell is presenting is actually my patented security algorithm, stolen and rebranded." She held up official documents. "I have here the original patent filings, development timelines, and source code that prove I created this technology while raising my triplets as a single mother." Security guards approached the stage but hesitated when they saw Daniel's live stream camera and noticed several audience members recording the confrontation on their phones. Richard tried to regain control. "Ms. Taylor is delusional. She's been making false claims since our relationship ended. This is clearly a publicity stunt." "Is it a publicity stunt that your demonstration failed because of the security protocol I built into my original code?" Jasmine challenged. "A backdoor that activates when unauthorized copies attempt to run the program?" The audience whispered among themselves, many already pulling up Daniel's previous articles about Richard on their phones. "Ms. Taylor is upset because I refused to put her name on my company's work," Richard said, his voice hardening. "This is personal, not professional." From the back of the hall, the triplets broke away from Tasha and ran down the center aisle. "That's our mom," Zoe called out, her voice carrying through the large space. "She made that software while taking care of us." All eyes turned to the three small children rushing toward the stage. Security moved to intercept them, but the audience's mood had shifted, with several people standing to block the guards' path. "Let the children speak," someone called out. Jasmine's eyes widened in surprise at seeing her children, but she quickly recovered. "These are my triplets, the ones Richard called unfortunate baggage when he thought no one was listening." Richard's face darkened with fury. "This is absurd. Remove them all immediately." But his authority in the room was evaporating. In the third row, two people in business attire stood up. "Melissa Chen, Securities and Exchange Commission," one announced clearly. "We'd like to ask Mr. Caldwell some questions about his company's financial representations to investors." Marcus, who had been sitting quietly in the audience, now approached the stage with a flash drive in hand. "I have here," he said loudly, "financial records showing Caldwell Tech has been misrepresenting its solvency to investors for the past year. The company is 3 weeks from bankruptcy without Ms. Taylor's technology." Richard looked around wildly, seeing his carefully constructed world collapsing. His charm disappeared completely, replaced by naked rage. "You think you've won?" he shouted at Jasmine. "I'll make sure you never work in tech again. Do you know who I am? Who my friends are?" The audience watched in shocked silence as Richard's professional mask disintegrated entirely. "I built this company," he continued ranting. "You're nothing but a lucky amateur who stumbled onto a valuable algorithm." Jasmine remained calm. "An algorithm I created, patented, and protected. An algorithm you tried to steal through marriage and intimidation." Security guards, now unsure who they should be removing, looked to the event organizers for direction. The conference director stepped forward. "Mr. Caldwell, I think it would be best if you left the stage. This is my event, Richard protested. My company sponsored it. Not anymore, the director replied firmly. We don't support corporate theft or harassment. As Richard was escorted from his own keynote presentation, still shouting threats, the triplets reached their mother on stage. Jasmine knelt down to embrace them. You were supposed to be at the hotel, she whispered. We had to see you win, Zoe explained simply. Zach pointed to the screen, still displaying the error message. My backup code worked perfectly, Mom. Jasmine stood, keeping her children close as she addressed the stunned audience. For those interested in the actual security software I developed, I'll be giving a proper demonstration tomorrow. My team and I have established a new company, TaylorGuard, with legitimate investment from ethical partners. The audience erupted in applause. Jasmine noticed several influential tech leaders nodding appreciatively, many already making notes or sending messages on their phones. As they left the stage, reporters surrounded them, cameras flashing and questions flying from all directions. Daniel's live stream had already gone viral with over 50,000 viewers watching in real time. Samantha pushed through the crowd to reach them. The SEC agents want to speak with you when you're ready. They're very interested in Richard's misrepresentations to investors. And 3 more of Richard's former partners are here, Eleanor added. They want to join forces with you against him. Vanessa managed the press, directing them to a scheduled press conference later that afternoon. Ms. Taylor will answer all questions then. This is a significant day for ethical business practices in the tech industry. Outside the convention center, Richard stood on the sidewalk, his face contorted with rage as he watched his empire crumbling on social media in real time. He made a phone call. It's me, he said darkly. Activate contingency plan B. I want everything we have on Taylor released immediately. If I'm going down, she's coming with me. Back inside, surrounded by her team and supporters, Jasmine hugged her children tightly. I'm sorry we didn't stay at the hotel, Mom, Zane said quietly. It's okay, Jasmine replied. Maybe you were right to be here. Sometimes families need to face things together. Is it over now? Zach asked hopefully. Did we beat Richard? Jasmine exchanged glances with Samantha and Daniel, who both shook their heads slightly. Not quite, Jasmine told her son honestly. Richard is very angry, and angry people sometimes make desperate choices. But we're ready for whatever comes next. Jasmine sat across from 2 serious-faced Securities and Exchange Commission investigators in a downtown Chicago federal building. The plain conference room felt a world away from the dramatic confrontation at the Technology Summit just 2 weeks earlier. Ms. Taylor, we appreciate your detailed statement, said the female investigator, closing her notebook. The financial documents Mr. Whitman provided show clear evidence of Mr. Caldwell misrepresenting his company's situation to investors. What happens now? Jasmine asked. Our investigation is ongoing, the male investigator explained. But Mr. Caldwell is facing multiple federal charges. His assets have been temporarily frozen while we untangle the web of financial misrepresentations. Jasmine nodded, relief washing over her. Outside the building, Samantha waited with an update of her own. The patent office has officially confirmed your sole ownership of the security algorithm, Samantha said as they walked to her car. Richard's attempts to claim it as Caldwell Tech property have been formally rejected. That's wonderful news, Jasmine smiled. One less battle to fight. And speaking of battles, Samantha continued, 3 more of Richard's former victims have joined our civil lawsuit. The pattern of his behavior is now impossible to ignore. At Lincoln Elementary School, the triplets were experiencing their own form of aftermath. As they entered their classroom, several classmates rushed over. Is it true your mom beat a billionaire? A boy asked excitedly. We saw you on TV, a girl added. You ran down the aisle and everything. Zoe handled the attention with natural confidence, but Zach looked uncomfortable with the spotlight. Zane, always the most sensitive of the 3, stayed close to his siblings. Our mom didn't beat anyone, Zane explained quietly. She just told the truth. Their teacher, Ms. Wilson, gently dispersed the crowd of curious children. "That's enough questions, everyone. Let's give the Taylors some space." Later at recess, Zane sat alone on a bench while his siblings played. Ms. Wilson approached him. "Are you okay, Zane?" she asked kindly. "I don't like when everyone keeps asking about Richard," Zane admitted. "It was scary, and now they want us to tell the story over and over." Ms. Wilson nodded understandingly. "Sometimes when people see something on TV, they forget real people were involved. Would you like me to ask the other children to stop asking?" Zane thought for a moment. "Maybe just tell them we don't want to talk about the scary parts." In a downtown office building, Vanessa sat in an interview with the CEO of PrivaSafe, a respected cybersecurity firm. "Your resume is impressive, Ms. Reed," the CEO said. 7 years with Caldwell Tech. "But what really caught our attention was your integrity during the recent situation." "Thank you," Vanessa replied. "It wasn't an easy decision to stand against my employer, but I couldn't be part of what he was doing." "That's exactly the kind of ethical backbone we need in this industry," the CEO nodded approvingly. "We'd like to offer you a position as our new Director of Operations." Vanessa hesitated. "I'm flattered, but I should tell you I'm also considering joining Jasmine Taylor's new company, Taylor Guard." "I understand," the CEO said. "Take your time deciding. Either way, you've proven your value goes beyond technical skills." At Northwestern University, Eleanor stood before her ethics in technology class. On the screen behind her was a news photo of Jasmine and the triplets at the Technology Summit. "Today, we're discussing a real-time case study in intellectual property ethics," Eleanor explained to her students. "The Taylor-Caldwell case demonstrates how technical innovation, business practices, and personal ethics can intersect in complex ways." A student raised her hand. "Professor Simmons, weren't you personally involved in this case?" "Yes," Eleanor acknowledged, "which gives me a unique perspective, but also means I need to be extra careful about objectivity." That's our first lesson today. Recognizing when our personal connections might influence our professional judgment. In his home office, Daniel Cooper was on a video call with his editor. "The series has been picked up by 7 major newspapers," his editor announced, "and you've been nominated for the Jenkins Award for Investigative Journalism." "That's great news," Daniel said, surprised. "There's more. Harper & Row is interested in a book deal. They want the full story of corporate predation and how these small voices, particularly those children, managed to bring down a tech giant." Daniel thought about Jasmine and the triplets. "I'll need to speak with the Taylors first. This is their story as much as mine." At Chicago Memorial Hospital, Marcus sat beside his wife's bed as she received her cancer treatment. Elizabeth looked tired but determined. "The doctor says I'm responding well," she told Marcus, squeezing his hand. "How did your meeting with the SEC go?" "I told them everything," Marcus replied, "about Richard's company finances, his plans for Jasmine's patents, all of it." "Are you worried about the consequences?" Elizabeth asked. Marcus shook his head. "My lawyer says my cooperation will likely lead to immunity, but honestly, even if it didn't, I'd still have done it. Some things are more important than avoiding trouble." Elizabeth smiled. "Like what?" "Like being someone our children can be proud of," Marcus said simply. In Lincoln Park, one of Chicago's most desirable neighborhoods, Tasha and Jasmine toured a modest but charming 3-bedroom house. "The security system is already installed," the real estate agent explained, "and it's on a quiet street with good neighbors." "What do you think?" Tasha asked after the agent stepped away to take a call. "It's perfect," Jasmine said, looking around the sunny living room. "Not too fancy, but enough space for the triplets to each have some privacy as they grow up. And the location is great for schools," Tasha added. "Plus, it has that home office space for your work." Jasmine nodded. "After weeks in hotels, the kids need stability. This feels like a place we could call home." Later that evening, in the hotel suite that had been their temporary home, Jasmine's team gathered for a strategy meeting. The triplets played quietly in the next room, occasionally popping in to check on the adults. Taylor Guard officially launches next Monday, Jasmine announced. We already have 7 corporate clients signed up and pre-orders for the consumer version of the security app. The media coverage from the summit confrontation has been priceless, Daniel noted. Everyone wants to support the single mom who stood up to the corporate bully. Speaking of Richard, Samantha interjected, his lawyer contacted me today. He wants to offer a settlement. The room fell silent. What kind of settlement? Jasmine asked cautiously. $20 million, Samantha replied, in exchange for your silence about his actions and dropping all claims against him and his company. 20 million? Tasha whispered, eyes wide. There's more, Samantha continued. The offer requires complete confidentiality. You would never be able to speak about what happened, and all evidence would need to be destroyed. Including the recording? Vanessa asked. Everything, Samantha confirmed. The agreement would essentially erase the entire incident from public record. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, processing this information. What do you think I should do? Financially, it's a significant sum, Samantha admitted. It would secure your children's future. But legally, we have a strong case without settling. It's not just about the money, Eleanor pointed out. It's about the precedent. If Richard can pay to hide his actions, what message does that send? Unknown to the adults, the triplets had crept closer to listen from the doorway. They exchanged concerned glances before slipping back to their room to hold their own meeting. The next morning, as Jasmine reviewed the settlement offer documents at the dining table, the triplets approached with serious expressions. Mom, we need to talk about the money Richard wants to give you, Zoe announced. Surprised, Jasmine set down her papers. You know about that? Zach nodded. We heard you talking last night. We had a meeting about it, Zane added. You had a meeting? Jasmine couldn't help smiling despite the serious topic. Yes, Zoe continued, and we decided you shouldn't take the money. Even though it's a lot? Jasmine asked, curious about their reasoning. If you take it, Richard still wins because the truth stays hidden, Zach explained. And other people might get hurt like you almost did. And, Zane added quietly, I wouldn't feel good about having things bought with money for being quiet about something wrong. Jasmine looked at her children with a mixture of pride and amazement. At just 6 years old, they understood something that many adults struggled with, the value of truth over money. You know, she said softly, most kids would be excited about all the things $20 million could buy. We don't need $20 million, Zoe said with certainty. We just need our mom, our new house, and for Richard to not hurt anyone else. Later that day, Jasmine met with Samantha to deliver her decision. I'm declining the settlement offer, she said firmly. The triplets helped me see clearly. Some things shouldn't be hidden, no matter the price. The triplets helped you decide? Samantha asked, surprised. Jasmine smiled. They've been my moral compass from the beginning of this. Why stop listening to them now? As Samantha left to deliver the response to Richard's lawyers, Jasmine's phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? She answered cautiously. Ms. Taylor, came Richard's unmistakable voice, cold and controlled. I'm told you rejected my generous offer. I did, Jasmine confirmed, her hand tightening on the phone. That's unfortunate, Richard said smoothly. I was trying to resolve this quietly for everyone's benefit. Now I'll have to use other methods. More threats, Richard? Haven't you learned that doesn't work with me? This isn't a threat, Richard replied. It's simply a fact. You haven't seen what I'm truly capable of when I have nothing left to lose. And now, thanks to you, I have nothing left to lose. The line went dead. Jasmine stood still for a long moment, considering Richard's words. She had won the public battle and legal ground, but Richard Caldwell was still dangerous, perhaps more so now that he was cornered. She looked toward the room where her children were playing and made a silent promise to protect them, no matter what Richard's other methods might be. 6 months after Richard's threatening phone call, Jasmine stood in the bright kitchen of her Lincoln Park home, watching through the window as her triplets played in the backyard. The modest 3-bedroom house was nothing like the mansion Richard had promised, but it was theirs, secure, comfortable, and paid for with the success of Taylor Guard. "Mom, look what I built!" Zach called from the yard, pointing proudly to a small weather station he had constructed from a kit. Jasmine gave him a thumbs up through the window. She checked her watch. 15 minutes until the virtual board meeting. As she turned to head to her home office, the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Zoe shouted, racing in from the backyard with her brothers close behind. "Check the security camera first," Jasmine reminded them, a habit they had developed during the difficult days following Richard's threats. Zoe checked the small tablet mounted by the door. "It's Ms. Vanessa." Jasmine smiled as the children eagerly opened the door for Vanessa Reed, now Taylor Guard's operations director after declining the offer from PrivaSafe. "Sorry I'm early," Vanessa said, setting down her laptop bag. Traffic was lighter than expected. "Perfect timing," Jasmine replied. "The kids can show you their backyard projects while I set up for the meeting." "How's the new security protocol launch going?" Vanessa asked, following Jasmine to the home office. "Better than we projected. We've signed 3 more corporate clients this week," Jasmine said, turning on her computer. The consumer app hit 1 million downloads yesterday. The home office was simple but efficient, a far cry from the elaborate setup Richard would have installed. Family photos lined the walls, alongside framed news articles about Taylor Guard's launch and the triplets' now famous intervention at the wedding. "Any word from Richard?" Vanessa asked quietly, making sure the children were out of earshot. Jasmine shook her head. "Not since the court ordered the electronic monitoring bracelet. House arrest seems to be keeping him contained while he awaits trial." Richard's final attempt at revenge had come 2 months earlier. After losing his company, his reputation, and most of his fortune to legal fees, he had hired hackers to launch a sophisticated attack on Taylor Guard systems during their public launch. "I still can't believe Zach was the one who caught the breach attempt," Vanessa said, smiling at the memory. "Mother's son," Jasmine said proudly. "He was playing games on his tablet when he noticed unusual activity on our home network. Most adults would have ignored it. What Richard hadn't known was that Jasmine had taught her tech-savvy son basic network security as a game." Zach had immediately alerted his mother, who traced the attack directly back to Richard's home IP address, a critical error that violated his bail conditions and led to the electronic monitoring the court now required. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Tasha, carrying a large box of cupcakes. "For the celebration later," she explained, setting them on the kitchen counter. "I can't believe it's been exactly 6 months since the wedding that wasn't." "The freedom celebration," Jasmine laughed. "The kids have been planning it all week." Over the next hour, their home filled with the people who had become their extended family. Eleanor arrived with books for the triplets. Daniel and his editor came with advance copies of his new book, The Algorithm of Truth: How 3 Children Stopped a Corporate Takeover. Marcus and Elizabeth Whitman arrived last, Elizabeth looking healthier after responding well to her cancer treatment. As the adults settled in the living room, the triplets gathered everyone's attention. "Welcome to our freedom celebration," Zoe announced formally. "It's been exactly 6 months since Mom didn't marry Richard," Zach added. "And since we all became a team," Zane finished, gesturing to everyone in the room. The adults applauded the children's presentation, which continued with hand-drawn charts showing Taylor Guard's growth and a detailed timeline of what they called the Richard problem and how we fixed it. When the presentation ended, Jasmine stood to address her friends. "6 months ago, I thought I was losing everything," she said. "My relationship, my financial security, maybe even my work. What I didn't realize was that I was about to gain something much more valuable. Truth, real friends. and a chance to build something meaningful. She raised her glass of sparkling cider. TaylorGuard isn't just a successful company. It's proof that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's worth it. To TaylorGuard, everyone cheered. And there's something else I want to announce today, Jasmine continued. With our first quarter profits, TaylorGuard is establishing the New Beginning Scholarship for single parents in STEM fields. The application asks about their children too, Zoe chimed in, because children are important team members. That's wonderful, Jasmine, Eleanor said warmly. The university will be proud to partner with this initiative. As the celebration continued, Jasmine stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection on the back porch. Daniel joined her, notebook in hand. Still collecting stories? Jasmine asked with a smile. Always, Daniel admitted. The book is done, but the impact keeps growing. 3 more tech companies have revised their ethics policies after what happened with Richard. And Richard himself? Jasmine asked. Still awaiting trial. The evidence is overwhelming. Not just your case, but the pattern of fraud and intellectual property theft going back years. His former victims keep coming forward. Jasmine nodded, gazing at her backyard where the triplets were now organizing some kind of game with Marcus and Vanessa. You know what amazes me most? She said. How children see things so clearly sometimes. When Richard called them baggage, he couldn't have been more wrong. They were the ones who saw through him when all the adults were fooled. Inside the house, the party continued as Tasha brought out the cupcakes and Elizabeth showed off photos from her recent trip to the Mayo Clinic, where her final scans had shown significant improvement. The doctors are very optimistic, she told Eleanor, and Marcus has been incredible through all of it. How are things between you two? Eleanor asked gently. Better than before, honestly, Elizabeth replied. Facing something like this, and watching Marcus choose ethics over money, it changed our relationship. We talk more now, about things that matter. In the backyard, Zach had convinced Vanessa to look at his latest computer project. I made a special security program, he explained proudly. It detects when someone is trying to copy files without permission. That's impressive, Vanessa said, genuinely amazed by the 6-year-old's abilities. You might have a future at TaylorGuard. I know. Zach nodded seriously. I'm going to help Mom make the best security ever when I grow up. Nearby, Zoe was deep in conversation with Marcus about business strategy, her natural leadership qualities shining through as she explained her ideas for TaylorGuard's future products. Kids need security too, she insisted. TaylorGuard should make a special app just for children. That's actually a brilliant market observation, Marcus told her. You should tell your mother about that idea. Zane, always more introspective than his siblings, sat quietly beside Daniel, watching everyone. Are you writing a story about us? He asked, noticing Daniel's notebook. In a way, Daniel admitted. I'm thinking about what makes this story important. Zane thought for a moment. It's important because we learned that grown-ups can be wrong sometimes, and kids can be right. And when you see something bad happening, you should tell someone, even if nobody believes you at first. Daniel wrote down Zane's words, struck by their simple wisdom. As evening approached, Jasmine gathered everyone in the living room for a final toast. Sometimes the people who see the truth most clearly are the ones we least expect, she said, looking at her children with pride. My 3 little heroes taught me that love means protection, not possession, and that the most valuable patent isn't for software. It's on the courage to stand up for what's right. She raised her glass again. To new beginnings, built on truth and trust. Later, after their guests had left and the triplets were tucked into bed, Jasmine sat at her computer checking TaylorGuard's security systems one last time before sleep, a habit she couldn't break. Everything was running smoothly, protected by the code she had created during countless late nights at her old kitchen table. Her phone pinged with a news alert. Tech mogul Richard Caldwell faces additional federal charges for attempted corporate sabotage. Jasmine closed the alert without reading further. Richard no longer had power over her life or her thoughts. His threats had proven empty, his revenge attempts had backfired, and his empire had crumbled under the weight of his own actions. She turned off her computer and walked through the quiet house, checking on each sleeping child. Zach clutched a small tablet even in sleep, while Zoe's bedside table held notebooks filled with ideas and plans. Zane's room was decorated with drawings of their team, updated now to include all the people who had helped them. Jasmine kissed each child's forehead gently, overwhelmed with gratitude. 6 months ago, she had nearly made the biggest mistake of her life. Instead, thanks to 3 small voices that refused to be silenced, she had found something far more precious than any wedding ring could symbolize: the strength to stand on her own terms and build a future guided by truth rather than fear. As she turned out the last light, Jasmine smiled at the framed photo on the wall. Not a wedding portrait, but a candid shot of her and the triplets laughing together in their new backyard, faces alight with the simple joy of being exactly where they belonged. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen